Devin Nunes silences the Swamp Party with a bold call to action by US4Trump.com. Devin Nunes, chairman of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, responds to the Democrats on the Ingram angle. Moreover, Nunes is bold in his quest for the truth to be told to the American people. The Democrats are claiming that the Republican memo written by Nunes in early February was factually incorrect. The Dems are spinning and saying that Nunes is lying when he says that the FISA application does not make it clear that the DNC and Hillary Clinton campaign paid for the dirty dossier. The Democrats say that the FISA application has an appended footnote that tells who funded the dirty dossier. Without the document being unredacted, then the American people will not know who to believe. However, Devin Nunes, in a bold move for the truth, calls for the FISA application to be redacted for the American people to view. Furthermore, in another bold move, the Washington Examiner took a copy of the Nunes Republican memo. Then they cross-referenced it with the newly released 412 pages of the FISA application. After examining the two documents, their discovery shows that Nunes' memo was overwhelmingly accurate. Perhaps some Democrats do not believe it should have been written, or they dispute what it included and left out, or they do not agree with its conclusion, but it was in fact accurate. Appearing intent and with a twinkle in his eye, Nunes tells Laura, you really have to use word puzzles to get to the footnote where they supposedly told the court that it was paid for by the Democrats and that it was possibly speculated. Laura interrupts and says, but they said that it was in opposition to candidate number one. And Nunes takes control and says boldly that is correct, but they could have easily said that it was paid for by candidate number two, and with that, he rests his case. Moreover, Laura wants to know why Devin thinks they didn't just say it simply in the FISA application. Flabbergasted, Devin looks stunned, wondering the same thing, and with the bold patriotism says, do we live in a country where we can just go hire former contractors to just go out and, in this case, a former British agent to dig up dirt on your opponent? Furthermore, he says, take it to the FBI and DOJ that you control, feed it to them so that you can open up a counterintelligence investigation without any defense there, without any grand jury, and go and get all your communication. And Devin says, and that's why they wanted all of his Carter Page's communication. In closing, Representative Nunes says he wants the president to take care of the rest of these redactions so that there's full transparency and sunlight for everyone to see. I agree, but I don't know what Trump is thinking. Let's take a quick listen here. We'll listen to some of it.
Remember the Nunes memo? Well, back in February, the House Intel Committee, under the leadership of Devin Nunes, made public a memorandum alleging the FBI abused its authority in obtaining a FISA warrant against former Trump campaign aide Carter Page. Well, over the weekend, the Trump administration released the previously top-secret FISA warrant used against Page, and the Washington Examiner's Byron York opined that the new documents bolstered the Nunes memo. But the Washington Post's Philip Bump had a completely different take, writing that the warrant damaged Nunes' credibility. To try to sort it all out, well, let's bring in Congressman Devin Nunes himself. Congressman, good to see you. Thanks for being with us.
Good to be here.
So, first interview since this come out. What do you think about the criticism?
Well, we're really happy that it came out. We've been fighting for this for months, for this FISA application. It's the FISA and the 3 renewals to be put out for the public to see. There's still a lot of redactions. We would like for all those to be unredacted so that the American public has a chance to see this in full transparency.
Now let's watch some. This is just a sliver of the criticism that you've received, and I know that's nothing new for you, but over the weekend after this was released, let's watch.
He basically wrote this entire memo to mislead the American public without ever having read this FISA application.
They were lying when they said that that the FISA judges were fooled because they were not told that part of the base of the application.
Devin Nunes acting as a useful idiot for the Russian government.
Your reaction to some of that?
I enjoy it. Just bring it on. The more that they do, the more that they attack, the more that we know we're right over the target. They cannot deny. What was the major point of the memo was to say that the dossier was used in this application, and it made up the bulk of the FISA. Even with the redactions, you can see that that's the case.
But I want to ask you about that particular part. Let's quote from a FISA expert, David Chris, on the warrant application on the website Lawfare. This is what he said. Now, we can see that the footnote disclosing Steele's possible bias takes up more than a full page in the applications. There's literally no way the FISA court could have missed it. The FBI gave the court enough information to evaluate Steele's credibility, and that basic point's being repeated quite often.
By the left. So one of the things you have to realize now with all the press is certain members of the press work for the Democratic Party, and the Lawfare blog has been one of them. I mean, every day there's some new attack out, and so I don't put a lot of credibility into what they say. The fact of the matter is that you have to present verified information to the court. And let's not forget, to open up a counterintelligence investigation to a campaign, unprecedented, but then to use these invasive types of capabilities on an American citizen that should be very, very seldom used. In this case, not only did they use it, but they used it with information from the other candidate's campaign, and it wasn't verified.
Well, what they said about Steele, what they put in the application is that there was reason to trust him. They don't refer to him by name.
Yeah.
Source number one. So they said, well, there's reason that he's credible because other information source number one had given us had led to criminal convictions. Is that not good enough for you?
That is not.
Why?
It's absolutely not the case. I mean, if we're going to go to secret courts, and first of all, I believe it doesn't even follow the rules and regulations. Just because a source was good in one case doesn't mean that the next time they're going to bring information forward that it doesn't have to be verified. This is a secret court. That information must be vetted and verified.
But they didn't name a number of other people, and we have a full page of the application that we'll put up on the screen. But there are a lot of people who weren't named. So there were candidate number one, candidate number two, source number one, source number two, and you can see it in the actual, in the actual application.
And that's why they really had to use like word puzzles to get to how they described in that footnote where they supposedly told the court that it was paid for by the Democrats and that it was possibly, they speculated it could be partisan.
Well, they didn't say that specifically. They said in opposition to the president, correct?
That's correct.
Right.
But they could have easily said that it was paid for by candidate number two.
And they did not say that. Why?
I believe because that's crazy. I mean, can you imagine? Do we live in a country today? Well, I guess we do actually live in a country because this actually did happen. But where we can just go hire, private, former contractors to go out and in this case, a British, former British agent to go dig up dirt on your opponent, take it to the FBI and DOJ that you control, feed it into them so that they can open up a counterintelligence investigation without any defense there, without any grand jury, and go and get all of your communications. And look, that's why they wanted to have Carter Page. That's why they wanted all of his electronic communications. Like I keep hearing this argument, well, it wasn't until after he was off the campaign. In the FISA application itself, it says that they believe he's the guy that's running this collusion effort.
Yeah.
So clearly they think he's still involved in the campaign, and clearly this guy had his rights abused.
Well, Marco Rubio actually made that point. Let's watch.
I don't think they did anything wrong. I think they went to the court. They got the judges to approve it. They laid out all the information, and there was a lot of reasons unrelated to the dossier for why they wanted to look at Carter Page. And Carter Page was not a key member of the Trump campaign, and the Trump campaign said that.
So it was one element, but he said the FBI didn't do anything wrong. Russia did something wrong.
Well, we're all entitled to our own opinions, and I'm a big fan of the senator. But in this case, we have followed this very closely.
And you're suggesting he hasn't?
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that
He's pretty definitive. He said they didn't do anything wrong.
It's clear that if this is the way the FISA courts are going to behave, if this is that you can take political dirt, open up investigations into political campaigns, this is how a democratic republic falls apart. It's just unacceptable.
That's not an overstatement.
Nobody in their right mind, and if the shoe was on the other foot, right down the street here, you would have protests in the street, cars being blocked, fires in the street, tires being burnt, and I guarantee you all the heads would have rolled already at FBI and DOJ, and you'd have all the major newspaper, all the major media saying what a crime this was that this happened.
Was that footnote a CYA footnote for so they can say, look, we referenced this. This was someone who didn't like candidate number one. We referenced it because they did go out of the way to put that in the footnote.
Yeah,
that
that's why it's so. That's why I think you make a very good point. And this is what I was trying to say earlier. You have to really desperately try to put the words together the way that they did, instead of just having a simple definition, which could have been candidate 2 hired Fusion GPS, right, or U.S. person 1 to hire source 1 to go get the information. That was really simple to explain. The courts would have understood it easily, and I think the courts would have, at that point, well, they should have rejected it. I'm not sure they would have, but they should have.
4 Republican appointees, judges, federal district court judges, 4.
Yeah, I don't blame the judges. I think the judges were misled.
You don't think they should have asked more questions? I mean, if I saw,
well, it's hard to,
if I saw that was a prominent, forget saying if it was the majority of the case to open up this warrant, but if I saw political opposition, I would have asked more questions. Who is this political opposition?
Well,
do you know
sadly, we don't. Yeah, you should have asked that, but also sadly, we don't have any transcripts, so we don't believe there are any transcripts from those hearings.
The left is saying, and some neoconservatives saying, you and your committee have done an enormous amount of damage to the FISA process, that putting all this out there, pushing this issue as it is, will ultimately compromise our national security, because people are not going to be willing to put themselves out to give information to keep America safe. You knew that they were going to say that, and indeed
they've been saying that forever. So remember when we first, we got to call it how it is. When we first were writing the memo, they said, "Oh my God, he's going to destroy the whole process. He's going to disclose sources and methods. This is the end of the whole process." Did that happen? No. And in fact, once we released the memo, what did they do? They said, "Oh my God, he took 400 pages and got it down to 3 pages." Well, yeah, because it was a memo, and we were under strict kind of confines to try to keep it as short as possible.
And by the way, the redactions in this documents, they're significant. And it does discuss prior investigations, however, into Carter Page. They've been watching him for some time. So doesn't that indicate that there was information on Page? He was meeting these conferences, had some contact with government officials. They had ample reason, along with Papadopoulos, to open up an investigation. That's what your critics are saying.
Carter Page.
It's a foreign agent?
Was not a foreign agent. And what did the FBI do back in 2014 and 15? They went and interviewed the guy. That would have been the place to start. You don't open up an investigation into a campaign, okay, and then turn around and get a FISA warrant so that you can go in and grab a lot of information that had to have come from the campaign. I mean, this is how back in 13 and 14 they ran an investigation the way it's supposed to be run. And don't forget, another thing that wasn't told to the court, they did not want to tell the court that Carter Page actually had cooperated with the FBI in the past, and that he had also, the Russians didn't even want to recruit him because they thought he was an idiot. Those are the Russians' words, not anybody else's. The Russians said that. So there were a lot of reasons to believe that Carter Page was not acting as some type of foreign agent.
What's next for you on this?
We want the president to take care of the rest of these redactions so that there's full transparency and sunlight for everyone to see. And then we've sent 42 names over to Chairman Gowdy and Chairman Goodlatte, and we believe those interviews will be starting soon.
Congressman, thanks so much for stopping.
Well, I think Nunes was too nice about it. Look, the thing is, we all know what took place, but Nunes is holding back a little bit, I think. He wants to, just go by the book in a sense. Maybe they told him to, but I think he was a little tame in this. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And again, thank you so much for watching.